The Fantastic Four First Steps is yet another entry in the superhero saga. Does the reboot work, or is it one more messy multiverse MCU movie? Did you catch that alliteration? Forced to balance their roles as heroes with the strength of their family bond, the Fantastic Four must defend Earth from the ravenous space god Galactus and his enigmatic Herald, Silver Surfer. We pick up this story 4 years after the Fantastic Four became the Fantastic Four. Through a creative use of exposition and visual storytelling, we're caught up very quickly on things that have occurred, almost using The Incredibles as a template to kick off the plot and then provide backstory. The general premise for it is that a monstrous threat is coming to Earth to devour it, but is willing to strike a deal if the four will agree. This is very much a family-centered arc rather than the run-of-the-mill super story. This also doesn't bring in all sorts of side MCU characters meant to tie in future stories. Just like with the Thunderbolts, this serves as a standalone storyline that's going to eventually provide a link to some other movies. The character-driven nature of this, it feels like old-school MCU, spending time to endear us to the characters so the stakes feel legitimate and earned. Now, the cast includes the talents of Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Eben Moss-Bachrach, Joseph Quinn, Julia Garner, Ralph Ineson, and Paul Walter Hauser. Pedro Pascal plays Mr. Fantastic, or Reed Richards, not as a cocky genius, but as someone who is intensely burdened with the weight of that genius. There's this pained patience to his demeanor. Through his quiet, almost whisper-like delivery, Richards comes across as a compassionate father figure leader. Now, in a way, Pascal is kind of channeling his Joel persona from The Last of Us. Somebody who's troubled and sad, but also determined and driven. He's not always this way, though. There are a few scenes where Richard feels somewhat detached, not in a cruel or uncaring way, just consumed by his own thoughts and fears of not being able to solve a problem. And that's when the rest of the cast works to soften and then humanize him. And I'm not saying that Pascal is creating this lifeless or cold persona, one who's consumed by his inner thoughts and he shuts out everybody else around him. It's just that sometimes he's so focused that he's a little robotic, while still being charismatic. Now, I know that sounds like a contradiction, but Pascal builds a complex personality that's believable, endearing, even relatable at times. Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm is awesome. She is warm but fierce, and although she's the only woman within the team, she's not portrayed to be a weak or powerless member. She's decisive and rational with this protective nature that transcends her family's sphere. Sue's dynamic with the other three helps to maintain the family aspect of the group, blending some humor and compassion to help gel the members together. Now, Kirby builds out the character to showcase warmth and fear in her eyes, but also she's not devoid of fury when it's needed. She's engaging, and I'm pretty sure she's the most powerful of the team. There are some scenes, and although her powers aren't completely explained, we can understand the potent force that she can channel. Her force field-like light bendy type of thing is like telekinesis, but with visible prismatic light. And when she tosses people or objects around, it's cool to see. But when she unleashes her full potential, it's intense and even a bit scary. Now, thankfully, I don't think we ever hear Joseph Quinn say "flame on" as Johnny Storm. He's snarky, with a vibrant personality. Now, he's the youngest member of the team, but Quinn doesn't create this character who's immature or childlike in any way. He's lighthearted when it's needed, but also selfless without being reckless. His energy is infectious, and while he's not naive, he has this pureness to his persona that makes him instantly cheerworthy. And probably as the most compassionate and charming member of the team, Eben Moss-Bachrach is Ben Grimm, and he adds an incredible amount of humanity, despite spending the majority of the film as this craggly rock man. Now, as a feature of the character, his face isn't nearly as expressive as the rest of the cast, but that doesn't mean that the emotion does not translate. Moss-Bachrach introduces a ton of empathy and warmth through his vocal inflections. His timing is brilliant, allowing a comment to marinate just long enough to make his response effectively funny. Now, I am a little confused by this slight storyline that involves Ben and a teacher that he meets. While it shows that he still is a human with a heart inside that rock, the arc is ultimately unnecessary, losing nothing if it were eliminated from the film. And finally, we got Julia Garner as Silver Surfer. Despite being a shiny, metal-covered being, her eyes are extremely striking. The emotion Garner uses reveals so much about the surfer's personality, mixing anger, longing, regret, and love to transform an otherwise emotionless figure into someone who's mysteriously engaging. While the movie is special effects heavy, the visuals look great. Many sequences illustrate extreme speed, and these are impressive while also feeling plausible. I mean, at least within a superhero movie. And when we see Galactus, his reveal is eerie and impressively daunting. We're taken through his craft, and the details are curious and strange, mixing tech with organics to build an environment that is threatening and even a tiny bit like Mustafar from Revenge of the Sith. And while I thought we'd get to see a ton of Reed Richards using his elasticity, it's rather limited, with the film instead using Sue and Johnny to extensively showcase their powers. And when Johnny sets himself on fire and then flies around, I love that we're still able to see his face and figure. The flames don't obscure the character so much that it's just some orangish red blob shooting through the sky. And this helps to immerse us in the illusion of the world, creating a surprisingly believability to the story. Now, I was impressed, but also a little bit disappointed that some of the scenes of space travel are directly lifted from Interstellar. While a lot of them are quick, there is a lack of originality that's employed. We could look at it as flattery for Nolan's brilliance, but it also demonstrates the inability to craft something unique for this story. I mean, the scenes look amazing, and they're beautiful, but distracting for anybody who's familiar with Interstellar. Now, for Galactus, the scale is sometimes strange. I assumed him to be so massive that he could eclipse the Earth with his body. But for this film, he's large, but not anywhere that big. I mean, he's skyscraper-sized, making him a little less freaky or formidable than I originally believed him to be at that initial reveal. And the graphics, they're still excellent, but compared to some of the Celestials that we saw in the Eternals, Galactus is a tiny little plaything that can be squashed between their fingers. The aesthetics are also strangely intriguing. This takes place kind of in the 60s, but it's obviously different from our 1960s decade. The tech is futuristic, while the dress and the buildings are grounded within that time period. And I appreciate how the setting captures this certain nostalgia, while also reframing the very problematic mindsets that we encountered in real life during this time, like racism and sexism. And then don't get the idea that this is preachy on this. I mean, while it is an important area to showcase, the story allows the visuals to speak without having to directly call them out. Marvel took a chance with director Matt Shakman. Although he has directed a lot of TV series, including all of WandaVision, he doesn't have much experience with feature-length films. The risk paid off because instead of some rushed, action-heavy superhero movie like we've had way too many of, we get a character-driven narrative that focuses on highlighting the dynamics of the family, and then using that plethora of emotions to create a powerful tie to the characters, drawing us in so we feel the weight of their plight and the intensity of their mission. As someone who's been pretty burnt out on superhero films, The Fantastic Four: First Steps, it is a refreshing and character-centric story that uses its focus on family dynamics to craft engaging tension. The portrayals are rich and captivating, with each member contributing rather than one outshining the other. While some of the visuals aren't original, and Galactus isn't nearly as massive as he probably should be, the special effects are wonderful, and the performances eclipse the brief lack of originality, creating nuanced and deep characters who bring groundedness to a fantastical storyline. There is both a mid and post-credit scene, but the post one, it isn't important, so if you do need to leave before the very end, just make sure you stick around for that first scene. There's no sex or nudity, some profanity, and then some violence. I give The Fantastic Four: First Steps 4.5 out of 5 couches. I mean, I wasn't excited to see this, but I was deeply surprised at how fun and meaningful the story became. So have you seen this one yet? I would love to hear what you thought about the movie in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.